Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep on the art of influence, and we're basing this deep dive on the insights from deep tech marketing expert, Dr. Ari Masudi. Getting people to buy into your ideas, especially in a field as complex as deep tech, it's not a walk in the park.
Yeah, it's definitely not. In deep tech, you're asking people to invest in something so new they might not even fully get it. It's like a marathon, not a sprint. And Dr. Masudi argues that mastering influence, it's vital in this world.
Makes total sense. I mean, you need to win over investors, you need to rally your team, get everyone on board with a vision. That might seem like pure science fiction to some people.
Right.
But where do we even begin?
Well, Dr. Masudi starts with a story about Abraham Lincoln, and I think it really sets the stage.
Lincoln, you mean Honest Abe. What does he have to do with deep tech?
More than you might think. When Lincoln was building his law firm, he wanted to bring in this brilliant lawyer, William Seward. Now, Seward was considered a rival at the time.
Oh, wow. Talk about a power move. So how did Lincoln convince him? Did he just lay out all the logical reasons why joining the firm would be a smart career move?
That's what's so interesting. He didn't. Instead of just logic and reason, Lincoln targeted Seward's emotions. He knew that Seward was really driven by recognition. He wanted to feel like a valued partner. So Lincoln was smart. He used a respected intermediary, someone who knew how to stroke Seward's ego.
So it wasn't just about the facts. It was about understanding Seward, understanding his personality, and what motivated him emotionally.
Pretty slick. So are you saying we make decisions based more on feelings than logic?
That's exactly it. Dr. Masudi highlights this. We all have these emotional needs that drive our decisions, often way more than we realize.
That's true. Think about it. When you buy something, it's not always because you've weighed all the pros and cons.
Right.
Maybe you just love the design. Or maybe it made you feel like $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. Marketing plays on this all the time. So how can we, regular people who are master politicians like Lincoln, how can we apply this to our lives? How do I figure out what's driving the people? The people I'm trying to influence?
That's the big question. Dr. Masudi talks about this. He says you need to identify your audience's quote-unquote emotional and psychosocial needs. Things like the need for recognition, security, belonging, even transcendence. That desire to make a difference. These can be huge motivators.
So it's about figuring out what truly matters to them. Like, what are their deepest desires and fears? Do we need to become mind readers or something?
No, it's not about mind reading. It's about this thing Dr. Masudi calls cognitive empathy.
Cognitive empathy. That sounds pretty technical.
It's actually simpler than it sounds. It basically means putting yourself in their shoes. Really seeing the world from their perspective. Like Lincoln, you need to anticipate how others will react. And that means both allies and adversaries. It involves really listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak, but actively trying to understand where they're coming from.
So you're saying,
yeah,
it's about understanding their point of view, but also being able to predict how they might react to my ideas or suggestions. Like if I'm pitching a project to my boss, I should try to anticipate what her concerns might be before I even walk into her office.
Exactly. By thinking ahead. Addressing those objections before they come up, you're showing them you're not just pushing your own agenda, you're showing genuine concern for their perspective, and that builds trust.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all this connects. So we've talked about emotions and empathy when it comes to influencing others. But how do we put these insights into action?
Well, Dr. Masudi gives us a toolkit for persuasion. He calls them the 6 channels of influence.
Ooh, a toolkit. I like the sound of that. Tell me more.
The first one is all about interests. It's the classic, what's in it for me? You need to make it crystal clear. What are the benefits of your idea? What do they stand to gain by getting on board?
That makes sense. So what's next in this toolkit?
Next is authority. It's about leveraging your expertise, or even the expertise of others, to back up your ideas.
So if I'm pitching a new marketing campaign, I could bring up some successful case studies or quote some industry experts to give my proposal more weight.
Exactly. You could also bring in a colleague, someone respected, to vouch for you or your idea. Then there's politics. It's all about building those strategic alliances. So who can you team up with to strengthen your position, to gain more support for your ideas?
I see. So if I want to convince my company to go with a new sustainability program, I could maybe partner up with the head of HR to show how it aligns with the company values and, how it benefits employee well-being.
There you go. You just combined interests with politics. And that's a powerful argument. So how about we add another tool to the kit? Rationality. It's all about using facts and data to support your case.
Oh, yeah. Everyone loves a good spreadsheet or some impressive statistics. Data can be so convincing.
You would think. But it's not always that simple. Dr. Masudi reminds us that even with rationality, framing matters. How you present that data can change everything.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. So it's not just about throwing numbers at people. It's about telling a story that resonates. What are the last two channels?
All right, next up is vision. This is where you tap into people's emotions, their aspirations. You paint a picture of a brighter future. A future made possible by your ideas.
I got it. So instead of just listing the features of a new product, I talk about how it's going to revolutionize the industry, how it's going to make everyone's lives better.
Exactly. You're selling the dream, the possibility. And finally, we have relationships. Don't underestimate the power of personal connections. People are way more likely to listen to someone they know, someone they like and trust.
So networking and building those genuine relationships are super important.
Yeah.
Well, I'm starting to feel like I need a bigger toolkit to hold all these channels. Do I really need to master all 6 to be good at this? That seems like a lot.
Well, Dr. Masudi says it's about choosing the right combination of channels for each situation and for each person you're trying to influence. What works for your team might not work for senior management. It's about being adaptable and strategic.
Like a persuasion cocktail,
Mm-hmm.
mixing and matching the right ingredients to get the desired effect. This is getting intense, but this is all about adapting to other people. What about my own style? Does that come into play at all?
Absolutely. Dr. Masudi actually identifies 5 different influencing styles, almost like personality types for persuasion.
Oh, I love personality types. Tell me more about these influencing styles.
Yeah, think of them like different approaches to persuasion. Like you've got the driver, they're direct, demanding, rely a lot on logic and authority. Then you've got the commander, cool, calm and collected. They just naturally command respect, just by their presence.
Those sound pretty intense. I don't know if I'd
Yeah.
want to be on the receiving end of those styles.
Well, they definitely have their place, especially when you need quick, decisive action. But they might not be the best for every situation. Now, the promoter is a different story. They're all about enthusiasm and building those relationships. They're the ones who can really get people excited about a shared vision.
Okay, that whole thing sounds more my style.
Ah.
I do like getting people pumped up about new ideas. What about the last two?
Well, we've got the chess player. They're strategic, always thinking a few steps ahead, carefully planning their moves, anticipating potential roadblocks. And then there's the advocate. They're passionate and persistent, really good at weaving together different channels to make their case.
Wow, they all sound so different. Is there like a right style? Or does it just depend on the situation?
That's the thing about influence. It's all about being adaptable. Dr. Masudi really stresses this. Knowing your natural style is only the first step. You need to be able to flex, adjust your approach, depending on who you're talking to and what you're trying to get done.
So even if I'm like a natural promoter, I can't just go around with pom-poms and a megaphone all the time.
Yeah, pretty much. A driver might be great in a crisis, but they need to soften up when working with a team. And a chess player might need to bring up the energy. When they're presenting to a bigger crowd, it's all about reading the room and adjusting accordingly.
This is fascinating. There's so much that goes into being a good influencer. What if I'm not naturally good at some of these styles? Like I don't see myself as a commander. Can you learn these styles? Or are we stuck with our natural tendencies?
That's where authenticity comes in, Dr. Masudi says. The most effective leaders, they stay true to themselves while still adapting their communication style. He uses Andrew Carnegie as an example, the steel tycoon.
Carnegie, I mean, he wasn't exactly known for being warm and fuzzy, wasn't he? Kind of ruthless.
Yeah, he had a reputation for sure, but he was super successful. And the thing is, Carnegie knew he wasn't a good day-to-day manager. He recognized his limitations.
So what did he do? Try to force himself to be something he wasn't?
Nope, not at all. He delegated those tasks to people who were good at them. He focused on what he did best, inspiring a vision, building relationships with those key players, using his influence to drive things forward.
That's really interesting. So it's not about being good at everything. It's about knowing what you're good at and finding people who can fill in the gaps. It's about teamwork.
Exactly. That's the beauty of collaboration. And it ties into authenticity because people can spot a fake a mile away. But when you're genuine, when you're really passionate about what you're doing, that comes across. And that makes people want to follow you.
I love that. It's not about trying to be someone you're not. It's about using your strengths and being yourself.
Yeah.
This has been so insightful. So we've talked about emotions and empathy, those 6 channels of influence and the 5 different styles. Is there anything else we need in our persuasion toolkit?
Well, Dr. Masudi goes a bit deeper. He talks about 3 levels of influence, almost like stages in the process of persuading someone.
3 levels. It's like leveling up in a video game.
I like that analogy. He calls them convincing, persuading, and engaging.
Break it down for me. What's involved in each level?
Convincing is the most basic. It's about getting someone to accept an idea. In their head, you're using logic and reason, facts, data, a clear explanation.
Okay, so if I'm presenting a new strategy to my team, I'd lay out the problem, present the data, and show how my solution fixes things logically.
Exactly. You're appealing to their analytical side, giving them evidence. But persuading goes a step further. Now you're connecting with them on an emotional level. You're linking the idea to their values, their dreams, their fears. You're not just giving information, you're telling a story that resonates.
So instead of showing my team charts and graphs, I might share a story about another team, a team that used this strategy and got amazing results, something to really capture their imagination.
You got it. You're making it personal, making them feel something. And engaging. Well, that's the ultimate goal. It's about motivating action, getting people so on board that they're not just convinced, but they're ready to jump in and make it happen.
So it's not enough for my team to say, yeah, that makes sense. I need them to be so excited that they're actually ready to roll up their sleeves and start making it a reality.
Exactly. Dr. Masudi uses anti-smoking campaigns as an example to show how these levels work.
Anti-smoking, that's interesting. How do they use these 3 levels?
Well, think about it. Level 1, convincing. That's where you hit them with the facts about smoking. The death toll, the health risks, the financial burden, all those data points.
Okay, but we all know, just knowing the facts doesn't always change behavior. People still smoke even though they know it's bad for them.
That's right. And that's where persuading comes in. You show them a graphic image of a smoker's lungs. Or you share a story about someone who lost a loved one to smoking. That hits them on a different level. It makes them connect with the issue emotionally.
So you're not just appealing to their logic. You're making them feel the impact of smoking on a personal level. That's powerful. But how do you go from a powerful story to someone actually quitting? How does engaging fit in?
That's when things get really interesting. Dr. Masudi says, engaging often involves offering immediate incentives or creating a sensory experience, something that pushes them towards action. Think about how some campaigns offer free nicotine patches, or they highlight the immediate benefits of quitting, like having better breath or taste.
So they're not just saying quit. They're giving them tools and showing them the rewards they can experience right away.
Exactly. And you can even use the social aspect. Like if all your friends are quitting, you might feel more motivated to join them. That sense of community can be really powerful.
Okay, I'm seeing how these 3 levels work together to create real change. It's not just about convincing their minds, it's about touching their hearts and giving them the motivation to take action. Do you always have to go through all 3? Or can you just skip to engaging? Can you just get people to act? Without all the convincing and persuading?
That's a great question, and it's something Dr. Masudi actually addresses. He says it's definitely possible to skip those first 2 levels and just go straight for the engaging. He uses this example of a company that wants its employees to eat healthier. They could skip all the lectures about nutrition and just start offering free healthy meals in the cafeteria. Delicious healthy meals.
That's pretty smart. The employees aren't really convinced about the health benefits. They're just going for the free food. That's like hacking their habits.
Yeah, exactly. And it might work in the short term. People might start eating healthier because it's easy and tasty. But here's the thing. Dr. Masudi says this kind of change might not last.
Oh, I see. So if the free food goes away, the motivation to eat healthy might disappear too. Because they haven't really internalized the reasons. They're just responding to an external incentive.
Exactly. That's the risk. While you can sometimes skip levels, it's usually more effective to build a solid foundation. With convincing and persuading, if you want to see real lasting change.
Makes sense. You need to win over their minds and their hearts. If you want them to really embrace a new idea, a new way of doing things.
Right.
It's more holistic that way.
And if we go back to deep tech, which is where Dr. Masudi focuses, this becomes even more important.
Oh, absolutely. Because you're not just selling a product. You're selling a whole new way of thinking.
A new vision for the future.
Exactly.
You need that strong foundation, that understanding and emotional connection to get people to invest. Invest in something that might seem radical or even impossible at first.
Wow. This deep dive has been incredible. I've learned so much about influence.
Yeah.
But how do we put all this knowledge into practice? It's still a bit overwhelming.
What Dr. Masudi reminds us, mastering influence is a skill. It's not magic. It's about understanding people,
Yeah.
applying the right tool, and being authentic.
It's about being genuine,
Yeah.
connecting with people,
Mm.
and not just trying to manipulate them. And it's a long game,
Yeah.
especially in a field like deep tech.
For sure. So let's bring it all together. Think about a situation where you want to influence someone. It could be anything. Bitching a project at work, convincing your family to try a new restaurant, anything. Got one.
Yeah, I do. I'm thinking about trying to get my team to buy into a pretty different workflow. It's a big change. And I know there's going to be some pushback.
Perfect example. Now think about those three levels: convincing, persuading, and engaging. Which one do you think would work best here, and why?
Good question. I could definitely hit them with all the logic and data, but I don't know if that would get them truly excited. They might feel like they're just cogs in a machine. I'm thinking persuading might be the way to go.
Interesting. Why persuading? How would you approach it?
I think I would share a story about another team, a team that made a similar change and saw great results, something to really spark their imagination and show them the possibilities.
I like it. You're painting that picture of a positive future. You're appealing to their emotions. Now, how would you move them towards engaging? Remember, that's about inspiring action.
Ooh, maybe I could get them involved in designing the new workflow, so they feel like they're part of the process, not just being told what to do.
Now you're talking. You're taking Dr. Masudi's insights and applying them to a real situation. You're not forcing change, you're empowering your team.
And it feels so much more authentic. I'm not being manipulative. I'm inviting them to collaborate.
And that's what Dr. Masudi is all about. Influence isn't about tricks or pressure. It's about understanding people, connecting with them, and inspiring them.
I feel like I've unlocked a new level of communication. It's not about manipulation. It's about being a better leader, a better communicator.
Exactly. And remember, it's a journey. Keep experimenting. See what works for you. And keep learning.
This has been an awesome deep dive. I feel like I have so many new tools to help me navigate the world of influence.
And I know you'll use them wisely. Because real influence, it's about making a positive impact.
Well said. So to everyone listening, go out there and use what you've learned for good. We'll be back next time with another fascinating deep dive. Until then, happy persuading.